Hello and welcome to your next guitar lesson. Today we are going to be learning a classic sticking with our fuzz sound from last week. We're going to be learning Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. Try not to be put off by the curtains. I'm doing the best with what I've got. Okay, so let's get into this. So there we have it, and we're going to learn this in two parts. So we're going to be looking at the chord part and the little parts that go in between that. In our second lesson, we're going to focus on the intro today. It's a real fun one to play. So let's get into this. Okay, so once again, before we do get started, I'll show you how I'm getting the sound. Obviously, I'm not expecting you guys to be able to completely mimic this at home. But one of the reasons I really love this fuzz pedal is it's got three different settings. You've got full fat, which makes it super fat and bassy and thumpy. You've got zonk, which gives it more of a honky sort of mid-pushed sound, and vintage mode. For this, I've got it in the zonk mode to give it a little bit more of that honky sound. And a little bit fun history about the fuzz pedal. They had germanium or silicon transistors in. This one's the SI, so it's got silicon transistors. And what you found with these transistors, depending on the temperature in the room, the fuzz would sound completely different. So a lot of people, when they're trying to mimic those Jimi Hendrix tones, they have a lot of difficulty because he'd just have his silicon or fuzz transistor fuzz pedal, and depending on what the heat of the room is, it would sound different. But they were very temperamental as well. So sometimes Jimi would get on stage, and if it's too hot or too cold, the fuzz would just be completely broken, not working, unless it was at the right temperature. Now, this fuzz has a bias control, which makes it so I can set that sound of a fuzz however I want. So to get the sound off the record for this, what I've done is, on my bias, I've turned my bias down. Turning the bias down stops the signal from being able to get through as clearly. So you'll notice as I hit a note, you'll hear it cuts out. And if I turn that right down, you'll hear I hit a note and it instantly starts dying out straight away. So I've got that set around about 10 o'clock. Imagine it's a clock face, and it gives me that nice sort of spatty sort of sound. And then I've just got a nice slap back going on here, and a little bit of reverb from my ethereal. I love this pedal. So there's a little bit of history about the fuzz pedal, and a little bit of how I'm getting this sound. Again, if you've got a modelling amp, or even just a distortion channel on your amplifier, this will work great for that. And if you're doing this on acoustic as well, you can still play this on acoustic, sounds great. So let's get into actually learning this now. Okay, so before we get into this, I want to show you guys the scale that Jimi's working when he's doing this. He's working in the E pentatonic minor scale. Now, if you know the E pentatonic minor scale, you'll know it from this shape here. But we're going to look at it from its A position, its A string position. So I'm just going to teach you the scale first. Just follow along with me as I do this. So we have first finger, 7th fret of our A string. Pinky, 10th fret of your A string. We then have first finger, 7th fret of D. Third finger, 9th fret of your D. First finger, 7th fret of your G. Third finger, 9th fret of your G. And then we're going to finish on here, which is going to be your first finger, 7th fret of your B, and then your second finger, 8th fret of the B. I just finished it an E note there. So that's the scale shape he's working in here, and he just switched the position slightly, but you'll see how we do that as we learn the song. Okay, so give that scale a little go and get familiar with it, because we are going to be using it a lot to play this. Okay, so this song starts out with octaves, and it starts out with octaves of B flat to another B flat on your D string. So we're going to use our first finger for the 6th fret of your E string, which is a B flat, and then we're going to use our third finger for the 8th fret of your D string, which is also a B flat, and we're just going to keep switching between the two. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Happens 4 times. And after you play each one of those, you don't want them bleeding into each other like this. You want to play each one, then lift the pressure off the string. You don't need to lift your finger fully off the string, just lift the pressure off the string. So you'll see what I mean. Still touching the string just so it doesn't continue to ring out, but I'm just stopping the pressure so it doesn't actually fret. Okay, so that's how the song starts. We're going to look at this now. Okay, so that's going to be the first little part we learn. And it's from that pentatonic minor we learned that. So let's have a little go at that now. So what you're doing for that is you're going to have your third finger on the D string, 9th fret, first finger, 7th fret of your G, and then your second finger, 8th fret of the B. And then you're just going to end that with your first finger, D string, 7th fret. That phrase ends with your first finger barring your A string and D string 5th fret. And you can let those two bleed into each other. And then you're going to do 5 on the A, then hit it again, and then hammer on with your third finger on the 7th fret of the A string. All together. So there's the first phrase. So let's do the intro and that first phrase. And then after that, that first phrase repeats again. All together now. So there is the first few phrases from this song. You notice when I'm wiggling my finger, I'm just doing a bit of vibrato, so literally just wiggle the string like that. So let's look at the next phrase now. Okay, so the next phrase we're going to look at in this goes a little bit like this. A lot of vibrato again as well, and we got some sliding. So for this, we're going to start with our third finger on the 7th fret of our A string, and we're going to hit that to the 5th fret of your D, and then the 7th fret of your D string with your third finger. So third finger, 7th fret of your A, to your first finger, 5th fret of your D, to your third finger on the 7th fret of your D. And then we're going to slide, as soon as we hit that 7th fret of your D, we're going to slide to the 9th fret of the D, and then quickly come away from it and finish with our first finger on the 5th fret of the D. So do this really slow at first, just like this. Up the speed, sounds like this. slowly like this. And then we're going to finish that phrase with the 5th fret of our D string to the 5th fret of our A, and we're just going to roll that first finger on that. And then you're going to do an open E string to the 3rd fret of your E with your 3rd finger. Do that slow. And I want you to really feel the song as well, just be quite aggressive with it. So when you're picking, really digging, you'll notice when I'm playing up the speed, I'm really digging into it and just feeling it. You just want to feel the music. So there is our next phrase. Let's move on. Okay, so here's the next phrase in the song. So again, we'll break that up. So, first things first, very similar to the last phrase you've just done. You're going to start with your 3rd finger on the 7th fret of your A, to your 1st finger on the 5th fret of your D string, to your 3rd finger on the 7th fret of your D string. Only difference this time is you're going to stay at that 7th fret and do. And you're going to hit that a total of 3 times. So let's just do that again, starting with our 3rd finger at the 7th fret of your A, 1st finger, 5th fret of your D, and then your 3rd finger at the 7th fret of your D. And you're going to hit that 3 times in the rhythm of. So that's the last part of this phrase that we're going to learn, and the last part to this lesson before we look at the chords next week. So this part feels really nice to play. Just the actual physical motion of it feels really good. So I want you to learn this really slowly and get all the movements, all the hand movements right. So we've just finished this. And we're going to now go back to the 5th fret of your D, and then the 7th fret of your A. And then you're going to slide from the 7th fret of your D to the 9th fret of your D. Then play the 7th fret of your G and 9th fret of your G. And then again, slide from the 7th fret of your G to the 9th fret again. Okay, so that end part isn't in there. I just did that for the fun of it. Right, so that is the end of this week's lesson. Next week we will look at the chord part, which is this bit. And all that sort of stuff. So we'll look more in depth of that next week, and you can see it in the intro part that I did for you. So that's a lot to get your teeth sunk into. Learn that, get a practice playing perfect for next week when we move into the chord section.